And I want to pick up with you, Honorable Kaluma, because I put this to Bishop earlier about the composition, because we're trying to also just look back. I mean, things have gotten so bad with the IEBC. We need to track where the problem began, so that we, perhaps going forward, those are the issues we'd fix. But you did not have much confidence in the selection panel, that a majority of them were from religious entities.
No, I didn't have any problem with the selection panel, because you remember we had people from the civil society, we had representatives of our religious society, and we had 2 people from the minority side of parliament, and
8
2
were from religious organizations.
And 2, of course, no, not 8, 4.
4.
Yes, then there were 4, 2 of whom were from the majority side, and 2 from the minority side.
Okay.
Now that was making about 8 or so. Now what happened is that the initial thinking is that we would have real political players do the politics. We wait for Bishop Obede and the religious, ministers to pray for us if we have issues with elections. now that of course did not come to be, and I think, Sophia, that was the beginning of our problems with the Electoral Commission. If you look at the world over, and I was sharing this with Bishop a short while ago, go to the Electoral Commission, the Federal Electoral Commission of the United States. It is 3 Democrats and 3 Republicans nominees as commissioners. They are 6 in number. And you'll be told that the chair for now is a Republican, presented to the Republicans, to President Obama, who was a Democrat, to appoint. And is appointed, the CV is there. He becomes now the chair of the entire commission. What am I talking about? There is a way in which developed democracies are saying, don't pretend you are giving work that is not for various people to them. IEBC is about constituting leadership of a country. The country here is Kenya. Allow the political players to, appoint or nominate directly the commissioners, and then the president does formal appointment. I want to say, Sophia, that we are a nation that allows participation, unnecessary participation, by everybody in everything. You see, this process I was telling you happened in the United States is what we had in IPPG, and Bishop, you will agree with me, that the only 2 elections we have never contested in Kenya were the elections in '97 and elections in 2002. Why? Because we had IPPG before that.
May I put this to you?
Yes.
Because we've heard the bishop say, as they worked, it was a constrained environment dictated by the political class. You're saying, trust the political class, but it appears the political class is only agreeable and will have issues and perhaps jeopardize a process when it does not meet their ends. So that at the end of the day, you may think the political class is a problem, but others may view it, is the solution, others may view it as the problem.
No, the weakness did not come from the political class. I started by saying that the weakness in constituting IEBC arose from the weak legal framework we gave them. And I've identified for you, Sophia, where that weakness was. That, unlike other commissions, where the president is given a fixed number to do mere formal appointment, we told the panel in which Bishop served that you will give a pool of people more than the number to be nominated to the president, so that you allow the president as an incumbent going for elections to pick commissioners from a whole list of several of them. And that is what he did. So Bishop will tell you that if you looked at the list they presented to Parliament upon, their report, there is a way in which commissioners were graded.
Yes. And
the top 2 in terms of chair, the top 2 in terms of the membership were dropped aside. And so the president picked the weakest of the link. And that, I tell you, is a legal problem. How do we avoid it? How we avoid it is to come up with a law that now sends a fixed number to the president to do a mere formal appointment.
Okay.
And number 2, I'm one person who believes we do not need this thing called a selection panel. We are experimenting with so sensitive a matter. My view going forward, and I think I've proposed it, Bishop, in a bill, is that we go the IPPG direction.
Okay.
We go the IPPG direction.
Yeah.
Let us allow the minority party to nominate. Let us allow the majority party to nominate commissioners for formal appointment by the president. And when you do that, Sophia, you will not have these problems we are talking about. In fact, you will truly have a truly independent commission, because there is no way commissioners from different political divides will conspire to rig either side.
All right. Bishop, as you respond to that, address the issue of the political class, because on one hand, he's now, Honorable Kaluma, arguing that the political class is the way to go. That's the solution. That is the gospel truth. But on the other hand, at the beginning of the show, he apologized for failing Kenyans, that we have this legal lacuna in as far as president cannot even, accept or announce receiving these resignations, because there isn't a legal framework to do that. So how do you reconcile the
Sophie,
two?
that is not true.
We'll get to you. Yes.
I said we have three problems. I started by saying first is the structural, which I mentioned, the fact that you have two full-time bodies that are working on elections. That is a structural problem. The second one is a legal problem. And the one I have just mentioned, where you draft a legal document to guide the process, and it is such that the people that you have given this, is almost like you have set them up for failure in the first place. So whether you have politicians or whoever it is, if you continue with that kind of a process, and Mheshimiwa has alluded to that, you will have a failure. The third one is a problem that I saw myself as I observe is political. That we have political interests and political contestations in this country at a level that I don't know exists in any other country.
I know.
So the IEBC, as I said, this is now from just my observation, and I do not know whether I would have done better if I was a commissioner, if I was there as a commissioner, are in such a pressure to side with one party or the other, that unless you have a strong backbone to stand up against that kind of pressure, you are likely to find yourself being swayed in one direction or another. That is what, personally, I see. I'm not inside, but from outside, I see happen to the commission, such that now you had two sets of commissioners, one aligned to a particular area, to a particular party, another one aligned to the other one. Now, what the Mheshimiwa is proposing, that we should formalize that. So that right from the beginning, you already have this side for this party, and then you have this side for the other party. It will not work. Well, these people will, exactly what we have seen, because these people will be trying to please their side.
Sophia,
the other side will please. When we appeared, before I was in the panel, as religious leaders, we went to make a presentation before the select committee, Kiraito Murungi and Honorable Rengo panel. We made proposals as to how we should deal with this matter. To our surprise, both chair, they said, you know what? This thing of elections and management and so on, and the selecting of commissioners, we should leave it to the religious community, because we are too interested that we cannot get the right people. That's how they ended up choosing. We are not the ones who told them to select us. In fact, we were surprised that they gave us such honor, because they know themselves, and they know that if you leave this thing with us,
their ends are so strong.
We will fight over it.
But he's saying the IPPG, when we had it worked perfectly, then there was no war.
IPPG was a politically negotiated process within a crisis situation. We are talking about a process that can give us, because even the commissioners that, the process that we went through that gave us the commissioners that we have now, in my view, that is not how to go about things. Election is only a few months down the road. You come up with a set of commissioners who are supposed to run this election. They have no time whatsoever to prepare themselves.
Sophia.
They get themselves into that place. There's too many things to work with. They have a secretariat that is already on board. That is
which thinks it is the commission.
Yes, working in a crisis situation that we should not go through.
Hold on, Honorable. I want to take you back. Very important, because our time is also... We'll get back to that.
Yeah, but Bishop is not apologizing for having failed Kenyans.
No, I was not.
You want him to apologize?
He has apologized because he identified where the problem lies.
Why should he apologize?
Bishop has just told you that the people they gave us as a selection panel to serve as commissioners lack the spine.
No.
And remember, I started.
But they're saying because the laws you give them to work with confined them to pick that glass, even if you know this is the right one.
You had 40 million Kenyans to pick from. You did not have.
In fact, we had
to pick for us people.
We had 800 applicants.
People, let me tell you, Sophia.
Spilt water. I want to come back to you. Please allow me to come back to the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee. You have admitted that you and Parliament have failed Kenyans. And throughout this time, we've seen IEBC come before the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee to submit on various issues. What is going on there in your committee? Because some would argue there's also a pull and push in as far as the way forward.
Yes.
And differing of positions in your committee.
Of course, when we started calling IEBC, it was when, you remember, the commissioners, there were about 3 of them, resigned. This one was after Madam Akombe. Before that, we were doing a general electoral evaluation or review of the electoral process we had gone through, because we needed, as the new Justice and Legal Affairs Committee, to sit with the commission that we oversight and ask them, how did we reach a situation where we become, in the entire continent, the first, body whose election is nullified, that family. And what should we be doing, about them going into the future? And there came the issue of, these latter day resignations, and we were concerned about, quorum. Because, in the Constitution, all these independent commissions should have a minimum of 3, a maximum of 9. But in the Independent Electoral and Boundary Commissions Act, we sort of put the minimum number of commissioners, I think, at 5 or so. So we were like, is IEBC able to function with only 3? And if there could be challenges, particularly with by-elections and others, what need we have done as members of Parliament to seal that loophole? Now, from those discussions, 2 things happened. A private member proposed legislation to fill in the vacancies. The selection panel in which Bishop was having lapsed. And this one was Honorable Jude Jomo. So we took it up as a committee. And I can tell you that within Justice and Legal Affairs, the discussions have taken, longer than was necessary. Because, of course,
it's taken a year
the political interest.
In place.
But I can tell you at the level of the committee, we have a subcommittee, coming up with that. We were also cautious, and we did not want to go ahead with the discussions and conclude without, bringing on board other political players and thinking. So we wanted a refined something over which consensus is built. At another level, I can tell you that there is a proposal, and this is a legislative proposal by myself, Bishop, in which I'm saying that we should stop all these experiments as a nation. Let us go forth and have a law that will enable us to institute a commission in which we have equal nominees from the minority party or coalition of parties, from the majority party or coalition of parties. And all these fears the Bishop is talking about aside, let us agree that out of the political settlement he spoke about in 1995, we had the IPPG. And that IPPG, whatever you can say about other elections after we returned multipartism, nobody is contesting that it was a free and fair election. In fact, for the 97, we are saying the opposition was divided. For 2002, you had President Kibaki coming in against, the candidate who was being supported by President Moi, who instituted the IPPG on an agreement with the parties. So we should stop this fear. I can assure you, and I've thought through this very deeply, doing studies across Bishop, that the only way to secure the institutional independence of a body like IEBC is to have the core political players directly nominate and keep bishops and religious leaders aside.
All right, Bishop, many people you'll find even on social media believe and think that the political class is really the beginning of our problems in Kenya. He, of course, is a politician, so he'll say they're the solutions. So when he says these things, what do you tell those people? And also, as we bring this to a close, I have about 2 minutes. There was a ruling, and this came before your committee, that it was invalidated, the resignation of the 3 commissioners. And they based that to go back. That's perhaps a moral question of how do you go back to after you've publicly resigned. But for the judge to say you've unprocedurally resigned, they argued it played their role. The unprocedural part was that it had not been announced, but you cannot force a president to announce that he's received or otherwise. So speak to us about those 2 issues, please.
That's why I say that in this country, we are, I think, Michael Joseph, I think, is the one who said we are a queer people. Peculiar. We are a very peculiar people.
Yeah.
Because there's a sense in which we have also made law to be our God. So that things that are very obvious sometimes don't turn out as obvious as they look.
Yeah.
So we get into situations where we put ourselves into a bind. How can a person resign and then you unresign them? Even if the law was not followed. If today I go to my employer and I say, or I just don't turn up, you know, send a text and say, from tomorrow I'm not coming to work. Now, there's within my where I work, there's a due process that is laid out how I should resign. Now, I never followed that process. Can they come and say, you never resigned properly, come back? No. I mean, you are gone, because it's my choice.
Yeah.
So there are things that we get ourselves into, and with all due respect to our learned judges, they take this letter of the law, and from where I sit, the Bible says the letter kills, but the spirit gives life.
Okay.
And I hear lawyers say that there is the spirit of the law and there is the letter of the law.
Yes.
We have gone more towards the letter of the law than the spirit of the law. So that if there was a problem with the way even a law was drafted, you can go back and say, what did these people intend to say?
Okay.
I'll use the spirit of the law to solve our problems.
30 seconds. Give me, please, Bishop, I'm sorry to cut you short, your closing remarks, but touching on Parliament, because we now do not have a law in place to guide the hiring of new commissioners to fill the vacant positions. 1 year on. Yeah. Well, it's been a few months, but 1 year on, I mean, this was known from the other 2017, after that law was for just that election, so it was known for a long time. Briefly.
And this is a general statement, not just for IEBC, but other making of laws, that Parliament should take into account that they are the people's representatives. They are the people who are supposed to do certain things on our behalf. And so when it comes to critical matters like elections, let's first of all step out from our political roles and positions and come up with laws that we can say are in the interest of the nation and of the people that we come to represent. After we have put together that law, let's go back and play our politics within those frameworks. But when we play politics with the legal framing of various laws that would guide the nation in certain areas, we put the nation in jeopardy. So I pray that our politicians can stand tall and step out of their political positioning, and that is a normal thing for them to do as politicians. But when they are making laws, let's make laws that serve the nation.
Bishop, I love that you're praying, but many Kenyans will look at that prayer and say, oh Lord, I pray you hear it, because
he was praying instead of putting commissioners.
No, because you have always come under the spotlight. You are recognizing, you are apologetic of the failures you made. So speak to us on this. Why, as JLAC And as a member of parliament, we do not have a law 1 year on. While all this has played out, you have oversight.
Yes.
What have you done and what do you intend to do?
Sophia Matters elections are very sensitive, including, everything to do with the IEBC. The best thing that would have happened is that we, as bishops say, have convergence of thought around it. I hope you're not forgetting our long electioneering period and how long it has taken us to settle. In fact, Bishop, you're not thanking, our top leaders for the handshake. Right? I can
You
tell
can
you.
shake hands after.
Yes. I can tell you that with the handshake, we are focusing back. You cannot unilaterally, go thinking about electoral processes without thinking of how you can sit
What will JLAC
without
do?
crisis. Now, we have these, legislative proposals to work on, and I can assure the nation that we are on it. We are very alert to the fact that we
1
need
year on, and we're talking about a referendum, Mheshimiwa.
Handshake took long to come. Yeah, we are pushing. Referendum, of course, is going to be there as and when it will be there, and the commission will be properly in place for it. What I would say is that the most important process in this, the most important thing in this process is political goodwill. Political goodwill. Once we can hack it, and we allow the religious members to pray for us, let us play our politics. We will institute the law. Of course, being cautious, not to be selfish about, something as sensitive as elections. We will, hack it together. In terms of these commissioners you're talking about, they have gone home. Sophia, resignation is severance of employment relationship.
Okay.
Those commissioners announced in public they resigned. They signed clearance forms. I know when Okia Omtata went to court, there is two affidavits confirming.
But now we have two commissioners without others in the other positions, which there's no law to guide that.
Those vacancies are going to be dealt with. By the way, one of the things we could propose in law is that we don't search for other commissioners. We make those 3 commissioners the commissioners.
Okay.
And as Parliament, we have those choices to make.
I wish we had more time. Thank you both for being with us. Our time has run out. Honorable Kaluma, Bishop Oginde, I see you were supporting and were at the stadium today. You came under hit on the Russia trip as MPs. So I hope as Kenya Harambee Stars proceed, you will now support Wananchi to go
Russia,
and not MPs.
I attended Kasarani and Harambee Stars won.
No, do not put it that way. The other games support Wananchi, your constituents to go. Thank you so much for staying with us here on Checkpoint. Robinson Kenya is coming up with sports news. Please stay with us.
This is KTN News.